Enda O'Doherty is an author, motivational speaker and endurance athlete who's taken on some of the world's toughest challenges, a man who's had very dark times but has managed to reach the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. And he's completed 9 marathons in 8 days with a washing machine on his back. Welcome to episode 7 of Confident You. Okay, listen, Enda O'Doherty, first of all, you're very, very, very welcome to this episode of Confident You. And we've been back and forth on LinkedIn talking to each other, and you've been very nice about the series, and it's purely there as an online series to try and help people to be a bit more positive at the moment with everything that's going on and have a bit of confidence which might keep them going. And I looked at your profile on LinkedIn, and literally my jaw is still down there somewhere on the ground. It is the most astounding CV. I mean, the physical and mental endurance you must have. You've completed the Ironman Sweden. You've completed the Ironman UK, which I believe is one of the toughest in the world. First of all, tell us about that, what's involved in that.
Yeah, so it's a triathlon, but I always tell people, Theresa, it's a triathlon for the crazy people like me. So it's like everything I do in life. It's probably OTT. So it involves a 4-kilometer swim. So if there's a swimming pool near you right now, if you can imagine doing about 200 lengths of the pool, and straight after that, if you can imagine cycling from Cork Airport to Dublin Airport, that's the immediate cycle that comes after it. And when you arrive nice and fresh, you do a full marathon, and that's your Ironman. So my first one was 16 hours or so in Ironman UK, and then I went and did a second one and did Ironman Sweden. So I came down to about 13 hours on my second one. So it was it's a real challenge, but it was something that was life-changing for me, because while Ironman is very commercial, their slogan, their motto is anything is possible, and it really opened that possibility to my heart and to my head that anything was possible.
And what kind of training would you have done to prepare for that?
Right. So for anything, I mean, we were talking earlier there off air about, confidence and about life-changing habits. Persistent, consistent effort changes anything in your life, positive or negative. For me, it would have involved every morning before work, running for about an hour, every evening after work, cycling or swimming for an hour, and every weekend cycling for 5 hours, followed by maybe a 1 or 2 hour run. And that's for a year. So a lot of people, just like you did, are very kind, and they look at the end product and they talk about my journeys with the washing machine. People focus on the end event. But the iron bit of Ironman is not the race. The iron bit is to be disciplined enough to train for 14 hours a week for a year.
Absolutely.
That's where the real iron was.
It's like somebody who's a wonderful performer, an amazing pianist. They didn't just sit down at the piano. It happened. It took all of the practice, all of the resilience, all of the positive mindset, the positivity when things weren't going so well. You might have injured yourself during one of your training sessions, but you have to keep going, don't you? And you're all about resilience and mental toughness.
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, my backstory is not unique in Ireland, being an alcoholic. Thankfully, I'm 12 years dry, but I had severe depression, anxiety disorder. I had an awful time in terms of having suicidal thoughts when I stopped drinking. I suppose, like a lot of people, I was medicating myself with alcohol. And probably like a lot of men in their late 30s too, I found Lycra, and I decided to get myself as fit as possible and value my physical health and my mental health. So I suppose that started with a marathon, then it ended up 2 Ironman events. And then I suppose, as my wife calls it, midlife crisis part 3, Theresa, I put a washing machine in my back, and I ran from Belfast to Waterford, which is 9 marathons in 8 days. And the reason I did that was a mental health campaign. It was a very simple message that, this week in Ireland, 8 people will lose their lives to suicide. And many of those people lost their lives because they were carrying a hidden load. Nobody knew the difficulties they were under. So my mental health message was, don't carry something stupid around. If you're under pressure, put it down, ask for help. And the most stupid thing I think we can both agree that I could carry was a washing machine. So I did the length of Ireland essentially with the washing machine. And within 2 years of that, I suppose it really unleashed in me the belief that anything is possible with, the difference between an extraordinary life and an ordinary life is the extra. And for me, that potential was certainly unleashed. So 2 years ago, I went to Tanzania with 30 of the finest Irish people you'd ever meet. And I attempted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, the world's tallest freestanding mountain, with a washing machine on my back, again, to raise funds for mental health charities. Oh. So it's been a busy few years, Theresa. I suppose, over my shoulder there beside me, you can see my book. It's coming out in the next couple of weeks. The photograph was an accident. The photographer had me do a million poses. You know,
I love the photograph.
Yeah, in the middle of the photo session, I said, look, I'm really fed up with this. Is my dinner ready? And I let a sort of a shout, and he went click. He said, that's the perfect picture. But what I love about that picture, you know, is that the contradiction between the title of the book and the picture really paints, I suppose it paints a sad picture for a lot of people, in that, you know, when we're at our lowest, when we're at our weakest, when we're really struggling, and someone says to you, you know, Theresa, how are you getting on? Or, you know, how's life? And you go, yeah, good, I'm fine. And
men in particular do that. And you know what? When somebody asks you that, you know, normally that's coming from a very good place, and you really should talk to them and tell them, because a lot of this is about talking, isn't it, Enda?
Yeah, communication. Like, I mean, I remember distinctly the first time I spoke at an event. I work as a public speaker now, and life is amazing. Like, I've in recent months, I've worked with the Attorney General's office, I've worked with Leinster Rugby, I've worked with TripAdvisor. The list goes on and on. But I remember the first time I spoke in public at an event about my own mental health and my own journey to where I am today. And I had colleagues who came to me and said, Enda, my God, we're so shocked, because we're sorry we didn't help you, because, you know, you have a beautiful wife, you know, you have a lovely car, you have a lovely house, your kids are really successful, you seem always upbeat. We thought you had the perfect life. And the truth was, I was dying in slow motion. You know, I was drinking 4 or 5 bottles of whiskey a week just to maintain that facade of everything being great in my life. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. So what I said to those people was, you couldn't have helped me, because I wouldn't have asked for help. I wouldn't have told someone until it was too late.
But you had a facade up as well. And that is very, very common. You know, there are a lot of people who are in positions of importance, or, you know, they have a busy job or whatever, and they seem to have it all. They have, you know, seemingly a very good life. But if you scratch the surface, it's really how you feel about yourself inside. Do you like yourself? Are you happy with yourself? And some people who seem to be the most confident, the most outgoing in the world, have a self-loathing. And that can come through, then you're talking about, you know, numbing yourself and medicating for yourself, you know, drinking too much, just not being good to yourself, not treating yourself with the kindness and the dignity that you deserve.
Yeah, that's spot on. You hit the nail on the head there when we talk about loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves. On my website, I did a blog recently about, you know, that self-care is not being selfish. Self-care is vital. We need to look after ourselves. Like, I now know that my mental health and my happiness in life, it's not an accident, Theresa. Like, I mean, I don't wake up and hope today will be a good day. I'm cognizant that if things go bad in my day, or, you know, there are things outside of my control. You know, if a jet falls out of the sky on top of me, no positive thinking, you know, it's going to save me. It's still going to hurt. It's a jet.
Yeah.
But I don't leave my happiness to accidents. So, for example, I eat very well. I exercise every single day, 7 days a week. I go to the gym. I spend time in sunlight. I spend time in nature. I spend time with people I love. I tell them I love them. I reach out to my friends. You know, I don't do that thing I used to do where, you know, she hasn't rang me in 3 weeks and I thought we were friends. You know, if we are friends, I'm going to pick up the phone and ring her and make her laugh.
Yeah,
you know,
and you might find out that something was going on in that other person's life that they couldn't talk to anybody at that time. It sounds wonderful. It sounds like you're in a wonderful place. I want to go back to, I think it's an amazing symbolism, this load that people carry around on their own shoulders that weighs them down, and it's load they don't need.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you in a couple of aspects. One, it's symbolism to remind people, you know, that don't carry a heavy load, that it could cost you your life. You know, your mental health is something that you need to protect. And if you need help, there's no, you know, people would consider me very strong and, I don't know, a man's man, very masculine type chap. But, you know, I now see the greatest strength is being able to reach out and ask for help or talk to someone about your weaknesses. It makes me very proud that I can do that. I think the other message that I had with the washing machine was, sometimes, you know, you might be in a good place, but we need to make that phone call, send that text message and reach out to someone, because, you know, sometimes that load is completely invisible to you. That colleague in work with you tomorrow morning, or that person, as you said, who seems to have it all, might be really struggling, and your word of kindness or your question, are you okay, can make the biggest difference. And Theresa, I'm going to be completely honest with you too. You know, we needed to raise a lot of money. We raised thousands and thousands of euro, and we wanted to get a Pieta house to open in Waterford in the southeast. We needed a media hook. And I'm going to tell you, the magic happens when I appear with my washing machine on my back. I stop traffic, journalists, you know, My first day I went walking with the washing machine, which is a little bit awkward. I'm going to tell you, a little bit embarrassed. But this lady pulled in, and we were walking close by to a local halting site, a traveller's halting site.
Yeah.
This lady pulled in and she offered me a lift because she assumed that I had bought the washing machine and was carrying it back to where we were passing at that moment.
Right.
And she stopped, and I explained to her that it was a mental health campaign, that I was out training. She was absolutely amazed. Yeah. She said, give me a second. She walked back to her car and she came back and she worked on the 6 o'clock news on RT, and that was my first interview.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, but that has happened, like, you know.
So it's a great idea, but it's the symbolism of it as well. I mean, I mean, carrying what I loved about it, I have to say, and I have a personal interest as well, I was just almost emotional actually seeing the photograph of you on Kilimanjaro holding the washing machine, and I saw Pieta House on the side, which is a charity that's very, very close to my heart, which was founded by my sister Joan Freeman. And, you know, Joan would say the amount of people up and down this country that have fought like lions to raise funds for other people who are suffering. And it's really huge testament to you, and so clever to come up with some, because there are so many charities, there are so many needs out there at the moment, but it was a brilliant idea. I do have to ask you though, the Sherpas, when you were going up Kilimanjaro, were they laughing at you? Did they think you were mad? Well,
we could do a whole podcast on this. There's lots of things, lots of great stories in the book. But one of my favorite is, you know, we got out of the bus at the base of Kilimanjaro, and they'd heard about these wonderful Irish people, and there were Freemans with us. So Martin Freeman was actually with us, and his cousin as well. Yeah, Martin came with me, but so we had songs and music the whole way up the mountain. The only bad thing was, of course, with Martin, it was constantly Beatles. But anyway, we got out of the bus, and the Tanzanians were just in shock. Like, they'd heard about as Irish people that we had, you know, great friendliness and great spirit, and they saw this chap putting a washing machine in his back to head up the mountain, and they just couldn't believe it, you know. But I think for me, you know, they got the symbolism, you know, whether it's Tanzania or whether it's Washington or Dublin, you know, the fundamental thing that makes us human is our humanity, our ability to reach out and inspire or touch other people. That's what makes us different. And they got that. You know, on the final morning, you give the porters, they get a tip from the whole group, and they usually sing and dance. But one of the particular mornings that we left them, you know, they had written a song called Madu Machine Anna Kama Simba, which in Swahili was washing machine man, strong like a lion or fierce like a lion. And even telling you, I can feel the tears, I can feel the eyes filling up here, because I know Frank is quite musical, but I don't know if you've ever had a song written in Swahili by a village or by porters and sung for you. It was an amazing experience, you know.
They're amazing people. They're amazing, and they're full of love. My two boys climbed Kilimanjaro when they were 16. And these guys were they were running up and down with bikes and all sorts of things on there. But their kindness to people was something.
Their kindness. I asked one of the porters one day, I said, like, I was dying. I was literally throwing up every 2 minutes. And I said to this guy, how do you do this? Like, he'd been up 14 times this year. I said, how do you do this? And he said, because I love my children. And, you know, it just stuck me to the ground. That was his answer. And I can tell you, Theresa, we were very dirty and smelly and sweaty. We weren't as well turned out as we are today. But my fingernails were completely green and black at one stage. And I remember I turned to one of the Tanzanians, and I looked at my fingernails, and I said, oh, my God. I said, what's that under my nails? And he had a look at my hand, and he looked at left and he looked right, and he said, that's adventure.
What a lovely word for a little bit of dirt. And I'm going to call it that from now on as well. It is it's adventure. And what an adventure. I mean, it is such an adventure to do something like that, to achieve that. But listen, you're incredible. Your book, I'm Fine. What a great title. Again, I love the cover. And it promises to be an absolutely brilliant read. And I know there've been some previews where it's been rated so highly. So when is it out, Enda?
So it's available to pre-order right now on endaodoherty.ie and Amazon, and this is the first time I've ever said this, and it's also available in all good bookshops. I promise people that if they buy this book, particularly if they go on holiday, it'll be the one they bring home for their sister or for their friend, or it's the one that they'll read again before Christmas, because there are messages of hope, there's laughter, there's fun, there's adventure. You know, sometimes I think when we talk about mental health and we talk about suicide or we talk about resilience, sometimes it gets painted in very dark and grey colours. And I like to think this book is painted with rainbow.
I think it's going to be so particularly relevant at the moment. And you know, and I know that there are people that had no difficulties at all with their mental health before who are suffering at the moment. And we're talking about young people, we're talking about elderly people, and we're talking about everybody in between. People that are crippled with anxiety, who can't seem to focus on anything other than the worry of what's going on at the moment. Is there anything, not everyone is going to be, a wonderful athlete like you. Is there anything that you can tell them now?
Yes, absolutely. Well, the first thing I'd say is on my YouTube channel, I actually put a video up recently, which was advice and coping with COVID and things you can do. But I suppose there are some really practical things you can do. The first thing is watch out for each other and be aware that what one person is going through might be far more difficult with the same circumstance than it is for you. You know, I illustrated that to someone. I said, you know, I was really struggling at the start of COVID, and I told people that to be an alcoholic and to have to wash your hands 15 times a day in alcohol is just torture. I really found it hard.
That people would not have thought of, yeah.
No. But I think, you know, the other thing I would say to people is, you know, a reporter asked me once, what was your greatest achievement? And the answer just came out spontaneously. And I said, my greatest achievement was to surround myself with great people. And if you're in time of crisis or stressed or you're feeling anxious with COVID, you know, put yourself with people who are going to inspire you and lift you and take care of you. I think really important is, I know we're using social media here, left, right, and center, but it's really important that when you do use it, that you're selective about what you put into your brain. You know, it's nobody's surprised if you eat, 65 chicken wings with extra spicy sauce. If we put that into our body, we know what it's going to do. So don't be surprised, you know, if you feed yourself with negative, hostile, scary media. It's not to deny that, you know, COVID-19 is an awful thing and our country is going through an awful challenge. I'm not denying that. I'm not saying blindfold yourself, but I am saying get the information, get the news, but don't feed that negative mindset. Don't feed that negative energy, because it will overtake you and it will make you very, very unhappy, you know.
Don't be swamped by it. It's out there, it's happening, we need to be careful. But instead of, there are people that are literally watching the news all day long and all night long as well. They watch a certain amount, and then the rest of the time, you just have to mind each other, as you say. You have to look after your body. I went for a walk today on Tara Hill, and I just felt the calming effect of the air there. It's absolutely beautiful. I did about 5,000 steps. I know that's nothing. It's nothing, but for me it was pretty good, and it was a start. So I think you're right. You know, put good nutrition into your body. Self-care, you mentioned that as well. So, and to be good to yourself and to surround yourself with people. Sometimes it's hard to get away from toxic people if you're living with toxic people, but there are other people out there, and there are Zoom calls, and there's the old-fashioned phone call, and you can connect with people that will make you feel more buoyant and more positive about what we're going through.
Absolutely. I think that the one word I would say to people is to take action, do something. You know, so adjust your sleep time, adjust your food, adjust your exercise, adjust your social context. Like, take action and see changes and watch the improvement. Don't hope that things will get better for you, and don't hope that this sadness or anxiety you're experiencing will go away. You know, I often say to people, you're a master of your own destiny. You know, your happiness, your future is dictated to by your decisions. So that's a great thing, because that means you can make decisions. And if something doesn't work out for you, you can change it. I would pull you up on something you said, Theresa. At least 3 or 4 times in this podcast, you've said you're an amazing person. And I thank you for the compliment. But what I would tell you is, you know, I genuinely feel I'm just an ordinary person, and I've been very, very lucky the way the cards in life have fallen in front of me. But I would tell you, I am, you know, I still have bad days, but I don't have bad weeks or bad months. I am human, I am broken, I'm fragile, but like I say, I'm aware of those things. I saw a post recently on Facebook about Japanese vases, and, you know, if the Japanese have a vase and it breaks, that they repair it with gold, the cracks with gold, because they reckon, they value the imperfections, the difficulties. That's what gives you real beauty in life. And if someone is watching this, you know, don't think you have to, you know, grab a washing machine and run up a mountain, or run a marathon backwards, you know, or do a handstand for a year. You don't. You simply have to take charge of your life and your own happiness, and make good decisions, and life will improve for you.
Well, I still think you're amazing, and I think you're amazing for so many reasons, apart from the fact that you're clean and sober for such a long time, which is a massive achievement. It's really good to hear that, and that is encouraging. That's going to encourage a lot of people who are looking at this podcast who have turned to drink,
Yeah,
unfortunately, because of
yeah.
being stuck at home and no pubs and all of that kind of thing.
Teresa, I'm gonna share a lovely story with you. Happened yesterday, and people can see this if they go to. Look, you'll find it on any of my social media channels. But yesterday, I went to my printers, and I saw the cover of my book coming out for the first time. I did a little video, and I took some photographs and was professional and said how happy I was and all the rest. And I went outside from the printers. My wife was in the car. I sat in the car. And I cried for 15 minutes. I sat there and I sobbed. And eventually my wife said, come on, now pull yourself together. And I just said to her, they're not tears of sadness. I said, they're tears of joy, because I have gone from sitting in a shed in my garden, drinking bottles of whiskey on my own, to waiting for the sun to come up, because that's when the night terrors and the demons would leave me and I could go out into the real world and pretend to be normal. And I've gone from that to collecting my book. But my point is this: no matter where you are, no matter how tough times seem right now, and times are hard for people, financially, emotionally, health-wise, you need to remember that the darkest storm cloud, there is the most beautiful sunshine waiting behind for you. You just have to keep going, one foot in front of the other. Sports psychologists and different podcasts I've done, people say to me, Enda, how do you do 9 marathons in 8 days, or how do you get to the top of Kilimanjaro with a washing machine? And it's so profoundly simple, people miss it. It's just one foot in front of the other and refuse to bend. Just keep going.
I mean, listen, I'm going to add philosopher to your list of credits here, because
I don't think
it's
so.
an amazing book. We were supposed to be 10 minutes. It's gone far more than that. But Enda, I can't thank you again enough for speaking to me today. And the best of luck with the book. I'm fine in all good shops very soon. And we're looking forward to your further media appearances. And I'm very, very honoured that you could that you came onto my show before the Late Late Show on the World Wide Web.
Exactly.
So take care of yourself, and thanks again. God bless. Bye.